if you were to speak, sometimes a word like love, I think.
It's not love.
So you can say what it's not, but
I can say what it's not. You can name anything, and I can say that is precisely and exactly what it's not. Everything that can be named, that is not what is eternally present. Everything that can be named. Any concept. The best concepts. Even the concepts that I myself use to point to that, like the void, emptiness, consciousness, awareness, spirit, the self, the no-self, all of them point to that which can't be spoken. This awakeness. This that is awake. And we can't say what this is because this isn't a what. It's not a thing. This that is awake.
That's the thread?
That's the thread. That is the thread. Always, 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 there is consciousness of everything.
Never gets annihilated, never changed.
Self-consciousness gets annihilated, certainly.
But the awakeness within,
that's right,
does not.
That's right. You see, ultimately, at death, all sense of self-consciousness will be annihilated, gone, dispersed, back into its true nature, into pure consciousness, into pure spirit, with no sense of self, only a sense of itself. Very confusing for the mind to figure out, you see. What is there to figure out about nothing? About something that's literally nothing. There's nothing to figure out. Except it helps to figure out that there's nothing to figure out.
Adya, is awakeness a black and white issue? Are you either awake or you're not? Is there a gray area? Are there a matter of degree? And if there is, can you see this degree of realization in students that come to you or people that you meet?
Of course. Both are true. That you're either awake or you're not. So there's a truth to that. That either you're dreaming or your dream of separation, or you're not. You're awake. One or the other. Now if you're awake, you may be groggy. Hazy. Very prone to fall back into the dream state. When you wake up in the morning, and those mornings where it takes a long time and you're laying in bed and you're kind of going in and out and in and out. When you're awake, you're awake. When you're dreaming, you're dreaming. Still black and white, but you're so much on the thread of that it's very easy, right? To be groggy, you become awake and then you sleep. Awake. This is possible. Right? This is very possible. This is where even so many people that have awakenings find themselves, is in this in and out. Awake but groggy, which leads to asleep and separate. And then awake and groggy, and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. See, so both actually have a truth to them. When we are finally awakened, really awakened, then we are awake to that awakeness which does not sleep, which cannot sleep, which has never slept, which has never gone back into separation. This is the true awakening. When consciousness comes out of its fusion of form, it wakes up to itself. It knows what it is. Not the me that is form, the me that's just thought. Because that's what me is. Me is thought. Me disappears as soon as you stop thinking about me. That me doesn't wake up. You know the me that thinks it's going to become enlightened? Forget it. That me is toast. See, it's that awakening that cannot go back to sleep.
That brings to mind another quote from the New Testament. The foxes have their holes, the birds have their nests, but the Son of Man has no place to rest his head.
That's right. That's right. Nowhere to rest your head. Because you are eternally always awake. Eternally always awake.
So while that sounds sort of like not very nice to not have a place to rest your
It's
head.
not nice to the separate self. It's the separate self's horror. No place to rest my head. The separate self wants enlightenment to be a place to finally rest my head. There is no place for the separate self to rest its head. Enlightenment is a disaster to the separate self. You see, lots of spiritual experiences are very nice to the separate self. It collects them. I merged with all things. I saw the white light. Whatever it is. I had unity consciousness, and it likes collecting all these nice experiences and hopes. One day, one of these experiences will be permanent. But I have nowhere to rest my head. That's the truth. Nowhere. There's nowhere to rest. There's nothing to grab hold on. There's nothing in this for the egoic self at all. You see what I mean? Nothing.
But ultimately it is liberation.
It's liberation, of course, because it's liberation from the separate self. Unfortunately, we've made the conceptual mind into our God. What I think is what is true. Instead of realizing that the conceptual mind is a beautiful and powerful tool when in the hands of a truth that's prior to the mind, then it's a beautiful tool. When the mind has been taken as the ultimate reality, well, just open your eyes. That's what happens. It's not a pretty sight.
It seems that there's a propensity in consciousness to move towards self-realization.
Yes.
Is this the closest thing we have to the meaning of life?
If we were to talk about meaning of life at all, which actually to consciousness itself, to what we really are, meaning doesn't mean anything. It doesn't even understand meaning or the search for meaning, because everything is its own meaning. Every moment is its own meaning, its own flowering. But in a more relative way, from the relative consciousness. Of course, we could say that this is actually consciousness waking up to its true state through this whole humanness, through this whole being, through our whole being. Certainly, this seems to be what consciousness is trying to accomplish. This is really the spiritual urge. This is the desire for peace, for happiness, for completeness.
Like returning home.
That's right.
But different from when you left.
That's right. You do return home. Totally back home. But when you leave home, when you leave your sense of who you are, when you spontaneously leave home, awaken to that which is beyond the home that you've known, then you have returned truly to home for the first time. That this that you are has no form, no shape, no gender, no ideas, no ideology, no belief system, no religion, no nothing. It's gone. All that's just conditioned thoughts, conditioned ideas. This is the great liberation. This is the great freedom. That the thing that every human being is searching for in many different ways actually sits in the center of their own being. That's why anytime we wake up, the first thing we wonder is, how on God's earth did I miss this?
And finally, I want to ask you one more thing. When I sit with you, when I'm in your presence, there's a sense of transparency. All at once there is somebody personal there, yet there is this experience of transparency. I don't know how else to put it. It's one of the things, maybe the primary thing, that led me to really trust your authenticity as a teacher for me. But it's confusing in a way. It seems paradoxical.